Welcome, everyone. Glad to see you. I'm Ching-Yi Chen, faculty in the Interdisciplinary Arts and Sciences at the University of Washington, Bothell. I'm very pleased to welcome you tonight to this talk and conversation with our incredible guest artist and speaker, Golda Sargento, on Art is Service tonight as part of the University of Washington Bothell Labor Colloquium in conjunction with the Labor Stories During Pandemic Times class. So just a bit of logistics before we get started. I'm going to ask everyone to please mute during the talk. If you forget to mute and have a lot of background noise, we may mute you directly. If you have any tech or access needs, please feel free to message Simon Wolf, who has renamed himself Tech Support and Questions. Or if you can't get a hold of Simon, you can ask me directly in the chat, not our guest. And this talk will be recorded and may be available at a later date in our archives. After our talk, we're going to open up to a bit of conversation with the audience, which I'm going to moderate. And just to ensure that multiple and diverse voices are heard and to streamline questions, if you have any questions to pose to our guest speaker, please send them in a direct chat to Simon for consideration during the event. And I'm going to curate the questions. So we may not get to all the questions posed, but we're going to try to have a good conversation. And then if you have respectful comments and conversation, we welcome you to use the chat, which is open. We're Zooming from different places, but this event is hosted by UW Bothell, which is built upon the unceded homeland of the Willow Sammamish people. Our campus also touches on the shared waters of tribes and bands within the Suquamish, Tulalip, and Muckleshoot nations. What this means for me as an educator and writer living in this region is to commit to learning about the history and culture of these communities, to show solidarity for the continued fight for Indigenous sovereignty, and to work on decolonizing our educational practices, including whose histories, stories, and lineages we center in our writing practices and education. And I want to encourage you all in attendance to do this with me and to think about how you can make choices to support Indigenous communities where you live in material ways. I'm excited to hear from our guest speaker tonight. This is actually our final guest speaker in our series. I'm really excited to be chatting with an artist about working during the pandemic and what that's been like. Also, I'm excited because this is an artist who also co-runs a bookstore. So I think it's very fitting for our creative writing class that's focused on labor stories and thinking about work. And so just to give a brief bio, Golda Sargento was a member of theater group Overseas Artists, spoken word group Eighth Wonder, and the sketch comedy group Tastes Better Wit. Her music bands Golda Supernova, Golda and the Guns, Ninja and Slow Motion, DeathGlam, and the Soft Stars have performed at many music venues and festivals. Also, Sargento has performed excerpts from Dark Heart for Forbidden Futures 2020, a Filipino sci-fi film festival, which she also co-produced, directed, and edited. And also many other festivals and venues such as Kearney Street Workshop's Aperture Performance Art Series at the San Francisco Asian Art Museum, and also National Asian American Theater Conference. She has also performed, directed, and produced other community productions, including book readings for Archipelago Books, a bookstore she co-runs in the south of Market, where current works include publishing 2 books about Bay Area Filipino theater. I'm very pleased to pass the mic to our guest artist tonight.
Thank you, Chinny. Thank you so much. Thank you, Simon, and all of you for having me at the Labor Stories. And I'm honored to close out your series. This sounds like it was an amazing event. And when I was approached about telling my stories in pandemic, I was like, okay, how much time do you have? But also, it's kind of it's a timeless thing. So we're still in it, obviously. But Thank you so much for that introduction. I always get a little bit cringed out when I hear about myself in that way, because time is funny. You don't really like get to see yourself in reverse like that. But essentially, that's kind of what the pandemic has taught me about my efforts, is that time is space, and space was so different last year. Um, as Chingy said, I'm living in the Bay Area, but I was born in the Philippines. Makati, Manila is where my father's from. My mother is from Ilocos Norte, which is at the very tip of the Philippine Islands. They moved to Alaska, Anchorage, Alaska. I was 3 when I joined them. So I grew up in Anchorage, Alaska. I'm very, very proud of how I experienced the Northwest, man. I loved being out there. I really feel like it was such a fundamental part of who I became as an artist. And I'll get into that more. Um, After, my background is in creative writing and English literature. And then when I left to go to the lower 48s, is what we're all called down here, I found out that there was Asian American literature and African American literature. And I was studying like Shakespeare and other guys like that. So I was very, my mind was blown wide open, and I really got into the creative writing, as some of you have too. Um, when I came to the Bay, I started working at a place called Antloop Books. It's a small feminist press in the Mission in San Francisco, started by a woman named Joan Pink Boss, who was an incredible mentor and taught me above all things, just, there's integrity checks. You surround yourself with people who have a lot of good integrity, and you're able to put out good books. So going through that, I also was employed in a lot of bookstores. So I kind of, I play Scrabble. Like I take the creative word thing pretty seriously. I love books. I love writing. I love reading. I ended up, I was always kind of a musician, but I never really wrote my own songs. I never put the writing together with the reading. But when I eventually did, it became a whole another ball game, and I felt the creative writing was starting to come more into fruition, and I was able to do that when I came to the Bay, to meet other people of just we came at a time when spoken word was being done on the streets. Everyone was so passionate in a circle, like putting like down beatboxes. And anyways, it was a good time. Kids should have been there. But it was a really fantastic dynamic time to be an artist or burgeoning artist in the Bay Area. I love Alaska very much, but sometimes when I was growing up, there wasn't a lot of current art. I always felt like some of that stuff was happening in the future. Like when I would watch MTV, I always thought that stuff was happening somewhere in the future. Like Hollywood, LA was like 2 years ahead of us or 5 years ahead of us. But so I really, jumping into it with art and became kind of like, that's what I was going to do. I was going to do books and I was going to do art. When the pandemic hit, I was running a bookstore, and it was a small bookstore in a community center called Bayanihan Community Center. And here, I'll show you. And we were doing okay. Like it wasn't in the best part of the neighborhood. There wasn't a bunch of foot traffic, but we had the community behind us. Students from Bessie Carmichael will come in, and kids' books were a big deal. Aunties recommendations and things like that. But when we came upon it, we were the second generation bookstore owners. First generation, Marie Romero, she wanted to retire. She wasn't really able, she was in the business for 20 years, but she wasn't really, by then, like marketing and promotions were changing, everything was online, and she just didn't want to make that shift. So Lily and I were able to kind of pick up from there. And we had to kind of create that entire online presence. which we knew was important, but neither one of us knew about. We were fortunate enough to come upon an incubator program that these people from the SOMA were putting on. Hold on. And they built us a website like right in the nick of time. So this is Archipelago Books. It's a Filipino books and culture store. We are able to stay in business because of we were able to shift to this model. So a lot of our stuff is kind of sold out because we still get our books from the Philippines, and they have their own process with the pandemic. A lot of distributions went down, and everyone basically had to hustle. But we were kind of able to stay. Afloat that way. The art was, Bindlestiff is the place that I used to do a bunch of art. Bindlestiff Studio is an epicenter for Filipino American cultural art. It's in San Francisco, right down the street from the bookstore. And incidentally, South of Market is this, just became, it's San Francisco's latest cultural heritage district. So it's now called Soma Filipinas, and they're making an effort to create 12 blocks of on purpose, cultural dedication to the Filipino community that helped build it. So this spot right here, and if anybody has questions, let me know, was, man, I have to tell you, I started doing art at this spot in the early 2000s, and it was like kind of, it's just a black box theater, you guys, but it's amazing what a space can do, right? You have a place people can rehearse, they can build sets, they can throw shows, and we just managed to keep up the rent. And for 2030, we just celebrated the 30 years, a couple of, the year of the pandemic, actually, the year before. So they're still doing things like, a lot of these things are obviously going online. This directing playwriting workshop, Stories High, is one of their major incubator type of things where they find, you go into a different, for 3, I think it's 8 weeks. So you choose the directing, playwriting, or acting workshop, and these fine folks will teach you a little bit, and then you perform, or it gets performed at the end of it. It's a stage to page workshop. And all these folks had to adjust to it being online. And at first, folks weren't really realizing or knowing how to do that. But the artist service starts kicking in, where, man, it's either you put it up or you lay it down. You put it up, you try to put it up, or you just stop making art. And for some folks, they were very much interested in making art, but how do you do that? Well, everybody's on Zoom, and everyone's all these different things started to kind of make themselves available. Other theaters were starting to do things as well, like doing readings became a way to sort of stay present. But the quality of the experience of the audience was still kind of like up in the air. And we ended up having a, it was just kind of like Mad Max a little bit. It was like if you don't have Wi-Fi, you gotta sit this one out. It became a resource thing. Who's got what? Like, who needs what? What do you have? Like, I have an old iPhone. You can use that as a camera. Like, we ended up having to just source so many things and try to find out what exactly could we do. It became a little learning curve. We had to be really, a little bit kind on ourselves. But we ended up putting out even more produce or product or more assets, more output than we would if we were just kind of stuck to one linear space, like the stage. In the sense of like the internet being meta, where the stage could be Twitch, it could be Facebook Live, it could be Instagram Live, it could be YouTube Live. And we weren't having to kind of like wait in line for all those, for that space to become available. And it just turned up to be like, who's kind of got the gumption and how are we going to arrange this? The first show we did was all live, 2 hours, sketch comedy, comics, skits, a host. There's 40 people on backstage. And it was just Hail Mary that no one was going to turn on the camera accidentally. It was the honor system. It was good old fashioned like backstage text. We had all the kind of things. We were on Discord. It was a show though. It felt like a show. Everyone was stressed out. I think I had to take a walk. It felt like a show. But we had to deal with so many different elements. I know I keep bringing stuff up, but I kind of just want to show you an example of what happens when we end up shifting that. And I'm going to show you this piece, and I'm going to break down a little bit of the actual labor that went into this piece. It's 5 minutes long, and I hope that's okay. Is that okay to share that? Okay, thank you so much. Let's see if I can do it. All right. This is a piece I wrote.
Minus 35 degrees on average for a third of the sun's cycle. Only 4 winters before her blood thickens on salmon, and one single pitch dark night that lasts 3 months long. How many rows of sinigang is that? Satchel of crystals ensconced in a coveted packet by Ate Sita. I need so much. This is a very sad song. But what does that do to the hearts? The intrinsic value of the soul versus the laws of life still leaves us with a solid 50-50 chance. No one is entitled to life, no matter what they've chosen to believe. There are so many ways of dying and so many forms of death. Across the expansive land between the wave shapes of her eyes, may she grow a grand fire. May the smoke build a halo through which she will know see, she learns to hear the hunting call for home, past the broken houses, past the violent trappings of the hollow-eyed dying, past the conquesting of her silver-lined shapes, her dropped head, her held breath as their poison cloud makes its way to the spirit, to the heart, and then to the crown. Is it too much? The land, the language, the lineage, all lost. May her bones drum the earth where she stands, heating the blood to brown the skin, and just the black river water falling from crown to waist, her armor against the blank canvas of snow. May her bones build a drum of the earth wherever, whenever she stands. May her skin brown as her blood runs with the water, racing towards the ocean, racing towards the whole world. May her jet black stand stark against the whiteness, from crown to waist, from crown to waist. Her jet river waterfall, her sister the wind will find her this way. Yes, she will need entire generations of storms. We will collect sorrow, but is it too much sorrow? Too much blood spilled, split, stolen, wandering, lost? A love affair with anti-history? If we take a Filipino out of the islands, what is she? A Filipino in the world. A Filipino out of history, when is she? She's a human, timeless, bound bound only to for the living on earth. We are entitled to none of this. Land, food, language, light, love, community. They must be cultivated and cured, cared for, accredited, celebrated, held in gratitude. We will take for granted what has always come so easily. We will lose it all and so much more. And then, when are we? The world of civilizations will test the sanctuary. Oof, patriarchy, religion, OMG, student debt, LOL, QAnon, war on drugs, FTP, PPE.org, STD, PTSD, PST4, 5. How many dimensional worlds will we open before we heal the one we come from? She will need a grand palace somehow. A grand palace to grow the spirit from scratch without her tongue or tools. Her Tagalog, her father's barefoot silk will cement, her mother's mangrove tree, a sentimental imagining of a memory, no lineage, no royalty. Where can then this palace grow? Maybe she will marry the largest mountain she can find. Maybe he'll build her a symphony of clouds as he arches past the bristled tree line at his spine to the pure rock, thin air, the pinnacle, the pronouncement of becoming. With this, I'll make the moon her mother to teach her how light changes shape as we move, and that time is for creating. She grow grand fire across the expanse of land between the wave shapes of her eyes. With a halo of smoke rise, so she may know, see the mountain palace of storm, where she may generate all nerve, all bone, her answer to Earth's question, do you live? May the volcano of her history erupt on the tongue of her diaspora. May the lava cool and become land beckoning her home, howling. There are so many forms of death and many ways of dying, but life looks so many ways too. Has she forgotten too much, or has she not forgotten enough? Is that the bet then? Well, what are you willing to wager?
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for watching. Thank you so much. I had to go back to my spoken word days, Chingy, for that one. Spoken word is essentially theater, I found out. And so I'm gonna break some of that down. You saw me, the actor. But I was also the writer, the camera person, the director, the costumer, and the editor, essentially. So that, dear people, is the burden that became the soul that was on the shoulder of the artist during the pandemic. And a lot of us didn't know how to do many of those things, but we're talking quality control here, people. Somebody had to step in and understand, like, there was that learning curve, right? Where everything going out there was like, kind of looked the same, and we were sort of tired of it. Then we did virtual backgrounds, and you know what I'm saying? I love that. I'm usually in a spaceship, I'll be honest with you. I'm usually in a spaceship, or I have like cyber things that come out. See, this is nice too. It's just atmosphere. I like showing up to meetings like this because I'm like, this is who I am inside. I love writing. This is our costume. I wrote a piece called Hello Humans, and I don't think I would have been able to write it if my actors didn't have the ability to actually make their heads into aliens, you know? Like, there's so many things that end up happening when you are now in this point of view, in this area. Like, this guy is kind of cool, like this guy. So now I'm in costume, and it's just, you have to start using kind of the tools that you have. But that piece, I wrote that because a friend of mine who never comes out, here, I'll try to turn it off. That's the thing, I don't know how to turn them off sometimes. Oh, okay. My friend who never comes out, she hasn't been out in 25 years. And by that, I mean, she hasn't done art in 25 years publicly. Someone got her out. Someone gave her a Zoom link and she clicked it and she figured out. So that's the other part of being, creating art this way. We were able to do it and create a global people, a global audience. The audience wasn't limited to that linear space either. She said, let's do this piece about Babaylan, which is the shamans back in the Philippines. They're still here. They're part of the indigenous communities there, part of the indigenous culture there, that was into the magic and the healings and the herbs. And she came out, and that's what she wanted to share. After not being in the scene for 25 years, she came out and that's what she wanted to share. So when Patty Cachapero says, let's write something about Babaylan, she wants to do it in 2.5 weeks. Yeah, yes, of course. And then you write for a day, like you guys are probably, used to writing for a day. And then you have to make time to shoot it, you're directing yourself. You got to do the whole, when you get close, that's a whole nother character. I'm another character now. The frame is your new stage. So you make those adjustments because you're really considering the experience of the audience. It's really all it is. That's really all, that's the same thing that we share when we're live in person. It's you're still considering that, but when you're online, you have other tools. I feel like I was going to perform something. So the other part of this, I'm kind of going a little bit off track, but I'm trying to consider my time. Is this a good time to start? Yeah, all right. So I know folks signed up for the labor stories, and I kind of said those. I'm probably a better storyteller at midnight, but I do have another thing that we can do. I was hoping that we could all try to write a song together. And I know some of you were in the previous class. They were able to see some of the music that I make. I'm primarily a musician. But I wanted to try and see, since you guys watched that piece, it is spoken word. You guys are creative. You're also students. So I'm not gonna, I don't think I need to, spoon feed you. But what do you guys think about writing a couple of lines in the chat, and we're gonna piece it together and we're gonna write a song about that piece that you just saw. Who is game? Yeah, Amber, thank you for the thumbs up. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, everybody. Now, I know it sounds like, kind of like, what's it gonna, how's this gonna work? But we're gonna do it. We're all just gonna put, we're not doing it like line by line. It's not like a Mad Lib. It's just, we're going to be feeling a little bit of that piece of art. We're gonna be have a little bit of allow it to have an impression on us. And then we're gonna come up with a couple of lines we're gonna put in chat. And then I'm gonna help piece it together in a song. Okay. If anyone has any questions about it, that piece, you can hit me in the chat, or you could just speak up now. But I don't want you to get too cerebral. I want you to have, I want the impression to come in. Part of the songwriting for me and creative writing for me, and experiencing some of the different ways that art can become of service, is having it's a product of you experiencing the world. So sometimes people ask me, what kind of music do you listen to when you write? I actually don't listen to music when I write. I watch films. I watch crime when I do research because it's the timeline effect. Um, I get influenced and I allow it to leave an impression on me. I get obsessed. I'll watch it over and over again, or I'll experience it over and over again. So I'm sure that the impression it leaves is a true one. So the songwriting is going to be kind of like allowing this to leave an impression on you. We'll talk a little bit more about the mood and the environment. It's just an experiment, so I don't want anybody to feel like this is going to be graded. Certainly not. But if your lyrics don't get put up and then it gets sung, you might be sad. You might be sad that your lyrics didn't get sung in the song. That's all I'm saying. So please participate. Yeah, I'll give you guys 5 minutes. So it's 8:35 now. We'll write for like 5 minutes and let's see. Just put them in the chat. I will say that pivoting with the community was super important in this case. Pivoting with the community was essential to me. The fine folks at Bindle Stiff Studio were really game, and which is a testimony to the characters, you know, to that institution. It makes good friends. People become endeared to each other for decades in a place where you're able to create art. So we took that same sentiment, and as soon as we were able to kind of figure out the different ways to do things, we just shared, and then we just continued to do art for each other. We did a bunch of different like fundraisers for folks who are going through loss, illness. You know, I would have loved to donate $500, but instead we threw a show and we were able to raise a lot more than that. But the artist service is sometimes that's all you have on it, and sometimes it's more than you thought it needed. Let's see.
There's a question about how many lines you are hoping for.
Just a couple. So it could be like, you know, a line with a comma and then another line. It doesn't have to be like, you know, just yeah. 2 lines, 2 short lines, or 1 long thought, or, you know. Thank you, Olivia. And you know, the nature of that piece too, I'll just talk about that. Coming from Alaska, or coming from the Philippines and moving to Alaska and then being in the Bay, a lot of the stuff in my work, if those of you saw Wandering Son of a Gun, and even Hello Humans, like a lot of my work is constantly trying to talk about home, or the idea of home, or leaving home, or looking for home, or finding home. It's a theme. And, you know, I definitely accredit that to being part of the diaspora, the Filipino diaspora. And also having a sense of like, kind of what that looks like in different parts of the world. Let's see, sorry. Thank you. Oh, thank you. So yeah, the idea of home, excuse me. Yeah, so a lot of that piece was about kind of paying homage to the surrogate lands that have housed us, and really trying to create genuine, authentic connection, genuine, authentic, like that journey. So a lot of the work is part of that. The Bailan, she is, some say she could see into the future. So when she's sitting there and she's stirring her pot, you know, she's looking into that, so she can see she can see the colonization that's about to happen. She can see the language lost, the land lineage lost. And she's trying to figure out the wager. The bet, did she forget too much, or did she not forget enough? You know, there's a lot of pain in that story. Part of that pain is having it be seen, and the other part of that pain is having it be healed. So those are some of the elements of that piece. Okay, 8:39. So when it turns to 8:40, go ahead and put those lines in there. We'll give you some time to do it, but then when they're all in, hopefully, because none are in. Yes, okay, it's okay. Simon's gonna help copy all of those onto one doc, and then we're gonna talk a little bit about atmosphere and get our song on the air, debut, our #1 hit single. Soul stirred like a cauldron, steam rising to some half-gleaned conclusion. Hannah, thank you for cracking the egg open. Look at that. Look at that writing, guys. She's Chingy says, a spidery fragment rises from the hot mouth. Ooh, still have a way with those words. Thank you, Mars. Thank you so much. Let's see who else is on there. Now, mind you, we could make a song with just these lines. I could even make it 3 minutes long. You would remember those words, though. I swear it's stuck in your head. I promise you that. But I think we have more lines. Sam, yes. Oh, anting to sing away aswang. Smoke signals, Babaylan sends. She reads the fire's response. How steam comes up. We get up when it's our turn to bat. What needs to get swat at? Bars. Get it. Thank you, Sam. Olivia says, UFO, fly high. You are being watched. You are being. Yes. Yes, you are. We all are. You guys are killing it. Okay, Sam, with the anting aswang. You okay? Yeah, I can ask you questions as well. You have some knowledge there. Okay, let's see, 8:41. We have just, oh, thank you, Amber. Let's knock my lights out. Put me in the hot dark. Oof, let's feel our breath. Pull the red from our hearts. The lower 48 has the world. We have our breath. See the light. Find a new start. You guys are just beautiful. You guys are just blowing up. We're gonna start this storm. Watch. Okay, we're gonna wait a few more minutes, but remember what I said. Song's gonna go, and you're gonna be like, would have gone right there. Would have been so good. Now there's no bad lyrics. I'm gonna show you that. Like everything is vibe. Everything is just when you write a song. Like for those of you who watch Wandering Son of a, and there's it's just a story. It's a story that you're telling someone, and it's a story that you're telling as honestly as you can. Hi, thank you for turning on the camera. Let's see who else. Thank you, Amber. That's so cool. All right, maybe not a line. You guys want to do words? Come on, you got some words. Just a word, couple words. Thank you, Kaylin. The sun-seared churning sea laps at the edge of the world where the sun meets the sky. The sun-seared churning sea laps at the edge of the world where the sun meets the sky. So much imagery there. It's blowing my mind. I love that. Okay, let's see. 43. Can't hold this forever. The gates are closing. It repeats. Get in your sorry. I'm a nonfiction writer. Purple, purloin, purr. Rip. Did I do that right, Sabina? Yeah. We're gonna sing that. Simon, don't forget Sabina's, okay? Yeah. Burnt to a crisp. Thank you, Rachel. This is what I'm saying. There could be words, they could be lines. Okay, okay, okay. 8:44. Come on, you can do it, guys. Just a word, 2 lines. We're here for you. We're not gonna judge it. But the more the better. Wait, that's not it. The more the merrier. Okay. So we're gonna cut it off. I can already tell we have to. Simon, what do you say? You think we can do it for now? Is everyone all in? Okay, let's just call it. Thank you so much for those of you who participated. I'm gonna give you guys another chance to participate as well. Let's see if Simon can go ahead and capture that. But the other thing that we're gonna talk about a little bit is kind of like the weather, the weather that you're feeling right now. You can put that in the chat. Like you can say the weather of your soul. Anyone? Weather of your soul? How's it in there? Is it midnight? Anyone? Is it midnight in there? Is there a mountain? Are you in the bottom of the river bed? Is it, are you alone? Is it a crowd? We gotta give a little context, a little environment here. Let's see. All right, bottom of a snake's stomach. Thank you, Chingy. Thank you. All right, what does that sound like? I love how weird you guys are. It's my favorite. Okay, let's see what we can do here. Okay, so we're going to, here it is. We've got it in the doc. Let's share that screen. Do that. This is your song. Here we go. All right. This is what you've done. Now I was asking for environment because, lyrics, music is not just the song's not just the lyrics. It's also the mood. It's also the music. So bottom of the snake's belly to me sounds like. So it's like. Snake belly. All right, here we go. We're gonna try to make a song. Hold on. The soul stirs like a cauldron, steam rising to some happy conclusion. A spidery fragment rises from the heart now. Hunting to sing away a swan. Smoke signals, a fire alarm sang. She raised the fire's response. How steam comes up when we get up, when it's our turn to back. We need to get wide out. Hunting. Oh, okay. Let's knock my lights out. Put me in the dark. Let's feel our breath pour direct from our heart. The lower 48 has a war. We have our breath. See the light. unseared, churning sea laps at the edge of the world, where the sun meets the sky. Purple, 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 burn to a crisp. Bottom of the snake stomach, wall of the storm, so close to the eye, end of the waterfall, top of a tall tree, knowing I have to climb back down in a furrow. Oh, it's purple, 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 a bird to a crisp, bottom of a snake's stomach, wall of the storm, so close to the eye, end of the waterfall, top of a tall tree, knowing I have to climb back down in a burrow. Oh, it's purple. That's your song, guys. You did that. Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, I think you guys made a hit. Sometimes when the chorus kind of surprises you, we didn't realize it was gonna be purple, 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 burn to a crisp. What? Da da da. Like sometimes it just shows up, and amazing. Thank you so for your nice words. Really, it's about the energy that you guys put into it and the images that you make, and that's the storytelling element of it. That's the storytelling power of music. It's multidimensional. It is absolutely visceral. Sometimes we take it for granted a lot. We take music for granted because we end up not understanding how music actually affects us. We don't understand the machinations of it, and we take it a little bit for granted, and we don't quite give it its due. But I try to explain or express in especially my music how there's no formula. You just really have to feel something. You have to kind of take yourself seriously as an instrument, as a person who's experiencing the world, whether you're a writer or not, whether you're a creative or not. By the way, we're all creative. We all need to be creative to just figure out like what we did last year in the pandemic. Everyone's creative. It's not just about making art. It's about figuring out your choices and problem solving. You're all creative. Don't think you're not. But having that connection with your art and having that genuine, just really listening. You guys are writers. You're students. Writing for me and making art is so much about listening to myself, being hell of honest about what I just experienced, and just being like kind of so filled up that you have to burst and do something about it. Like I'm talking having life make an impression on you so that it goes into the machinations of your body and it comes out something amazing that the world is dire need of, that only you can do. That is why art is service to me, because it's this thing you can make out of thin air, and it could be so honest, so genuine. It could be so crafted because you've been diligent all these years. You've been diligent and faithful to your creating, to your writing, your music, your film watching, whatever it is that you do to storytell, to hear stories. It's NPR or whatever. I'm such a weirdo. Trust me, you do not want to stumble onto my YouTube. So if you don't want to know, I watch fishing channels. Okay, I've said too much. Anyways, be influenced. Let life make an impression on you. Take yourself seriously. Take yourself so seriously that you can't hear anything else but how this made you feel, and you're going to do something about it. That's why art is service, and that's something that you can do. You could do for your people, you could do it for you, but it makes you better for it. So I say keep making your, let's meet here once a week. We'll just keep churning out these hits, folks. Okay, meet here once a week, churn out these hits, and then we'll be on easy street, as they say. But really, it's about those emotions. Like, you're absolutely right. In some of the comments in the chat, like it is about those feelings. It's about, like, that's part of taking yourself seriously. That's part of listening. And then you make something that is at least service to you, and probably means you're healing. Like, I listen to something over and over again. It drives my people crazy. They're like, well, I can't hang out with her for a while. She's been listening to this song for 3 days straight. She won't stop. It's true. I do this, but it's homage. I'm honoring it by being obsessed, because I just feel like that's how we listen. That's how we're going to be a community. That's what we're going to be influenced by each other. Good, Hannah, thank you. I'm glad that you do that. See, so you can hang out with me and we won't be weirdos, right? We'll be normals. Awesome, Alexis. But yeah, if you guys have more questions, I think we can. I don't know if we have time, but
yeah, please send questions to Simon. While we're waiting for some questions, I want to let you know that Golda is headlining a concert tomorrow night, Friday night, 7 to 9 Pacific time. And I'll put the registration link in the chat for you. Hold on one sec. Here it is, the link. And also, this is our last speaker for our series, but we are going to be having these speculative storytelling sessions in our class, and there are going to be 14 community members that we're going to invite into the speculative storytelling sessions to reimagine labor. So I'm going to just put, and it's starting next Thursday. So if you're interested, you can click on the link, and it has all the details there. So, okay, we have a question. Hannah, do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, I would love to. I was just so blown away by that. Wow, thank you so much for sharing that with us. And I guess I wanted to know, how do you trust yourself to create in that way, in the moment, in any way?
good, brave, proud question that puts a bunch of glory on the table all of a sudden. How do you trust yourself? Man, practice trusting yourself. I reverse engineer everything. I think about how I want to feel when I get off the stage. I want to feel good. I felt really bad before, and I deserved it. But when I get off the stage, I want to feel really good. So that means I got to figure out how I'm going to feel good. That means I have to do good. And if I have to do good, I have to figure out how I'm going to do good. For me, that means if I'm going anywhere, if I'm performing anywhere, I have to spend at least 7 minutes by myself, just on my own. I'll walk around the block, or I'll just, I just know that for a fact. And I can't, and all the acts before, I can't be, even if they're my friends, I can't be cheering in that room for them. I've learned that I have to save my energy. And it's like when you go hiking or you go camping, it's like you pack your bag for the stuff that you know you're going to need. It's the same thing for when you perform or when you create art. It's just you figure out what it is that you need to do it. Like confidence Confidence means I have to have my black boots on. Like I need to know where my kids are. Like I need to know, like, can I cuss? Like I need safety things. Like there's definitely things that I just make my space. I have to make my space to make sure that I'm going to be comfortable. Comfortable means all the things that I need handled or taken care of. And that's part of taking myself seriously. Like there might be some really good intentioned people in your world that they're gonna be like, oh, hey, and they're gonna chat you, be like, oh, like, oh, I know you have to go on. And you can't, you have to say, please, excuse me, you can't engage that. You have to take what you need really seriously and be able to give that to yourself. That's the second part. Give it to yourself, because if you're going around being like, I need green M&Ms in my dressing room, it's like, who are you talking to? No one's asking you what you need. You don't got it like that yet. But if you need green M&Ms, girl, bring them. Bring them yourself. Bring them yourself. Take yourself seriously when you make art. Take yourself seriously about why it impacts you, and give yourself what you need to be confident. Practice. You know what I did today? I practiced for 7 hours because of the show tomorrow. I practice on that land here because I don't know this land. This land doesn't know me. I played for the birds. I played for the bees, and they all came. They're like, who's this girl? Why does she suck so bad right now? It's like 11. It's like 10 a.m. My voice isn't, whatever. But they were hella judgy. But that's part of my practice. When I go anywhere and play, I play for the land. I play for the animals. I play for the trees. I asked them to allow me to be good today. Like, allow it, please. Like, this is your land. This is, sometimes I feel like if they don't like it, it's not gonna go well. So it has to be in earnest. And that's part of taking yourself seriously. It's like, you gotta be, if you're the only one that believes in it, so like, then let it be you, the only one. So yeah, thank you for your question. But yeah, confidence is, the art, if you're obsessed, if it comes from you and it's for you, like it serves you, like you'll serve it. Like I'm positive, just take it serious. You're welcome.
Thank you, Golda. Sam has a question for you.
Thank you.
Magandang gabi, Golda.
Salamat, Sam. Kumusta po?
Mabuti naman. We were thinking a little bit about how your genre aligns with the politics, your politics for a particular piece. So I know that you sometimes cross musical genres. You go into punk, ska, you have a little bit of a reggae going on, and even new wave. You got Sushi and the Banshee in the back of your mind.
Yeah.
So I was just thinking if along with singing for the birds and for the trees, whether you allow your politics to also choose the genre of a song that you're producing and how that works for you.
Right. Yeah, thank you for asking that question, Sam. Genre has always been such a strange thing. Like I grew up at a time when like the radio played all genres, Also growing up in Alaska, we didn't have access to things like, you just write. I found out who I like by watching movies and listening to the soundtracks and finding those bands, and then looking at the back of the liners to find out who they listened to. Like I hunted art. I hunted it. So I never felt, and then I would have these smart, like edgy friends, and they're like, oh yeah, that genre, that sounds just like Blitz. Yeah, that's grindcore, or that's post-punk. And I was just like trying to keep up. I'm like, that probably is. Like, you definitely know more than me. But when you're not part of those scenes, like it's like it just affects you in a different way. It's like it's like sometimes you don't have a choice. So when I get the genre question, like it stumps me. The thing that I can't say is when I know how much time I have, and when I know who's going to be there, and I know exactly what I want to say to them, that's what chooses the kind of song it becomes. So like, for example, I did a collaboration with the G-Lab folks, and we did a song together. Like it wasn't like this, it was a different process, but they didn't write any lyrics, but I was essentially writing for them. And the song came out like, you know, extremely, it just came out like them, like so fun and so like so edgy. Like here, I'll play a little bit. Okay, it goes hey, what you gonna create? What's it do? What's it like? What's it gonna make? What's it gonna be? Times for getting free. Say what you gonna survey, make a space, what's it grow, what's it heal, what's it take, what you gonna survey, times for getting free. So that's just, that was like that was all of them, that was their energy. Like I never make a song like that, so cute, and like it's like so sweet. I couldn't even make it different. Like I tried to make it more like, but I was in love with them so much that it just turned it so cute. Anyways, the genre usually has to deal with the sentiment and the people. It's part of the gift, you know. I wrote a song for my dad, but it wasn't to my dad. It was a song that my dad wouldn't mind singing because he's a crooner. So I kind of wrote him a little Frank Sinatra song, a little bit. Like it was a crooner song, but I wrote it for him, you know, because I think he would like to sing it. So it's still kind of from the audience's perspective, and being flexible with the genre sort of means I'm listening to the way the song wants to be sung. I'm listening to the way the story wants to be told. Like it's sort of not up to me. But I will say that some of my roots for like rhythms and beats do come from some of the indigenous instruments from the Philippines, like the kulintang, the babandilas, the drum beats that go with that. And I kind of uncovered that as part of the source for some of my, like, you know, my beat influence, especially when I'm playing guitar. Then the other stuff is playing with a bunch of like excellent musicians that, man, I would never be able to play that kind of guitar. So the genre, you know, like the songs I make come from necessity, but then, you know, when I collaborate with folks, it's usually like it's because they're ill and badass, and I'll do whatever they say. I'll sing on whatever they want because I trust them. Yeah.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
sharing.
Thank you for asking your question.
Thank you so much for sharing your stories about being an artist during the pandemic, about running a bookstore, for singing with us and singing our words. It's been a real treat to have you as a guest artist visiting, even though we can't be in person. I hope folks who are able to can tune into tomorrow night's concert, which is from 7 to 9, and Golda is the headliner, and will be it's a concert to demand an end to anti-Asian violence, and there'll be a lot of other folks also performing. And before we end for the evening, is there any final thing that you want to share with the folks here, Golda?
Well, I just really thankful that you invited me, and I'm actually so excited that folks are learning how to, you know, like taking these stories into consideration, and like thinking about the pandemic in that storytelling vein, because we're essentially we just lived through history. That's what this is. And market with your art. It's going to be of service to you. It's going to be of service to your family in the future. We created Forbidden Futures 2020 because we purposefully wanted to put our thumbprint on that year. We wanted to have something that we could pull up and say, this is what we were doing in that year, because it's such a monumental time. And also, if you didn't do a damn thing, God bless you. I also love that too. I think it's very much about being yourself. It's very much about being authentic and being you. I think labor is, it's not a, you know, it's we're making a living, and you know, living is eating and housing, but it's also, you know, love and art and enhancing and evolving and becoming. So to me, time is for making, time is for creating, time is art. And I just, yeah, if that's the last thing you ever hear from me, it'll be that. And I wish you guys happy trails with all your creating. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. That's a beautiful note to end on. Oh, and I also just want to acknowledge and thank the Harry Bridges Center for Labor Studies, the Critical Acts Residency, and the Office of Community-Based Learning and Research, because they supported this event, and we were so lucky to have Golda with us tonight. So thank you all. Have a really great and wonderful evening.